I order a lot of my jute materials on Amazon, but then I found that the Dollar Tree actually stocks some of the things they did not have this fabric before, but now they do. There are so many fun things that you can make, but you need to start with some sort of a container, a box. And it can be a flimsy box or a solid Amazon box or a pizza box. Really look at all the things that you're about to throw away, see what cardboard you have, and see what we can make out of it. So for this pizza box, I'm going to make a tray, but I don't want it to be this large. So basically I'm going to use the pizza box, but I'm going to cut it down. But let's first use my Amazon one. Now we're going to want to line this inside and out. And the way that I've found that it's easiest to line the bottom is if you put fabric on a separate piece of cardboard and then insert that in. So you can use anything. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Even this flimsy cardboard from a UPS package will work. But we just need to outline what's going to be our interior piece. And you want it to be smaller than the actual size of your box, because once you put glue on it and fabric, it will be a little bit larger. Since we're adding fabric and glue to this, even though it's flimsy, it'll be nice and strong and work perfectly. So I'm just going to get my bath mat that I picked up from the Dollar Tree and use the center part of it so it will look like almost like a rug inside my jute basket. So I just need to cut along the outside edge and then glue it down. You can use Elmer's glue or you can use hot glue. I'm going to use hot glue in this case, but either one will work. And again, because this cardboard is so flimsy, it will mold into this spot nicely. So I'm going to give it a generous amount of hot glue and glue that down and make sure all the sides are turned under. I absolutely love the neutral colors. Now, if I ever wanted to change these jutes to be more flamboyant or more fancy looking, I could always add some different color yarn or rope. But in this case, I'm trying to keep everything very neutral so that it kind of goes with any decor style. Now, what you want to do is make sure that you trim off some of these outer edge. Depending on what kind of fabric you're using, the regular jute fabric, it's pretty flimsy, so it won't leave these great big bulges, but because this one's more like a rug, it is very thick and heavy, so I want to cut those edges off so that it doesn't have lifted spots over in the corners. One other thing that I've noticed, whenever you're using the jute fabric, it does have holes in it, so it's nice to kind of line your box so that you don't see the print of whatever is on the box coming through the fabric. So I just took a couple of pieces of copy paper and use a glue stick and just kind of glue down the areas that I know is going to have fabric, and so that it won't bleed through and you'll see the Amazon logos. Don't care to have that. Now, if you get just a plain box that doesn't have any print on it or plain white, then you wouldn't need to do this step. So this is just to make it so that you don't see the Amazon Prime logo. Okay, so I'm just gonna, you can put it on there anyway, just like you're wrapping a present. However you can get the paper on there that is nice and fast, and don't worry about bubbles or any of that, because the fabric will hide all of that. Now there's some different techniques that you can use with the bamboo sticks, and I'm going to show you one of those. And then this is the craft fabric. That's what it's called in the Dollar Tree. It's in the Crafter's Corner area. You can also order it on Amazon. So basically I want to line the inside of the box and I want it to come up over the edge. So I'm just going to cut strips, glue that down, and I do like to use a silicone hot pad that I picked up from the Dollar Tree so that I don't get burned through the fabric. And just go along and line that and then trim the corners and go ahead and glue that down so that there's a fabric edge up on the top. Now we don't have to line the bottom because, again, we're going to be using that other piece of cardboard for the bottom part. That is the inside bottom. We do want to use some of the fabric on the outside of the bottom. Just glue that down nice and easy. And now we have fabric along all the corners. Now I'm going to use some bamboo sticks and I'm going to glue them on, and this just depends on how high you want to come up with your weaving or braiding. I'm going to go ahead and make them pretty long, and then I'll determine how high up I want them to come. So I'm just cutting a few of the bamboo sticks and I'm going to glue them on now. And here's the reason. I'm going to put twine around the outer edge of this, and if the bamboo sticks are already glued down, it really makes them a lot more solid when I start weaving above the bamboo stick. So I'll show you that in a minute, but the first thing I'm going to do is find the center of the box and glue one of the bamboo sticks. Sometimes it's nice to clip them on because they take a little while to dry, and who wants to wait around for that? Not me. Now I'm going to go ahead and do one on each corner, and I will say that it is a good idea if you have the bamboo sticks so that there's an even amount, because you want to be able, when you're weaving, it makes it so that, anyway, it just works. I'll explain that when we get up to the top, but in this case, 4, 5. I did 5 on one side, and that ended up being a little bit of a faux pas. So there's what it looks like when they're all glued on, and I can go ahead and glue my inside rug piece right to the bottom, and so the interior of this can be finished. And then I'll start working on the outer edges. Now again, you can see that I have an even number of bamboo sticks glued to the outer edges of my box, and I should have done an odd number, because when you start weaving at the top, it just works better. So I'll show you what I had to do because I made that mistake. So we'll get to that in a minute. On the bottom part, I'm just going to go ahead and glue this heavy duty twine right to the bottom, and I have to kind of push it around my bamboo sticks so you don't really see those bamboo sticks. The reason why they go down this far, again, I'm just repeating myself a little bit, is just so that they're nice and solid, so that if I want to weave up on the top with my yarn, I can create a fun little pattern. You can use yarn, macrame yarn, or other twine, but just go along and glue down. Now this particular twine I didn't get at the Dollar Tree. I got this one from Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below if you're interested in getting this one. There is some other twine that I'll show you in a minute that I did get from the Dollar Tree, so it just depends on your preference. This one's a little bit more blonde. The color that I pick up from the Dollar Tree is a little more brown. So I'm going to go along about halfway up, gluing down my twine. Now you could do different patterns if you wanted to, but I actually love the look of just straight lines along with some twine. It looks really good. And you see how I put fabric on the bottom, folded up over, and then this twine just fills in all the areas. Now I'm going to use some of my dollar store twine rope, and there's a couple of different thicknesses that you can get from the Dollar Tree. Some are a little thicker than others. This is just a preference. Now I'm going to make the handle by using the twine. I just cut a strip, and then I get a longer strip and start gluing it around and around. And you do have to hold it until that glue sets. But I will say this, the rope loves hot glue. It takes a minute to hold its shape, but once it does, it's solid. It works so great for handles, and I love the look of it. You don't have to buy any extra fancy anything. You just glue around. Make sure that you leave a couple of pieces that aren't glued on the very ends so that those can be glued to the basket, and then we'll do some rope over it and it'll be a solid little handle. So I'm going to go until I get to the end of this rope, and as you can see, I might have a piece that's a little bit too long, so you can trim it down afterwards, but look at how great that is. I love it. So I'm going to clip that so it can completely dry, do another one that matches it, and now it's ready to go. I'll just trim off that little piece that's just a little bit too long, and you can see once I glue it down and then add the rope around it, it'll be nice and solid. This is one of my favorite ways to make handles. Okay, so I've got my basket. I'm going to go ahead and add my handles on here before I finish doing the trim that's going to be coming up the dowels. So those are glued on, and I'm going to use some of the rest of the same dollar store twine. So I'm combining two different types of rope, and in this case I'm just going to glue the rope right onto the inside edge of these dowels and on the outside edge of the dowels, and one right across the top. Now, I have done, when I have these dowels coming up higher, I have used a crocheted yarn and kind of done a weave, like just gone in and out and in and out of the dowels. But because I did the even number of dowels, that really doesn't work on this one. But it still is nice because I can easily hold the rope into place. Now, if those dowels weren't there, it would become tippy. It wouldn't hold its place. Or I could just do this around a box that's taller. So anyway, the one thing that I have figured out, whenever I'm working on something, if it doesn't work out, I keep on going until I figure out a way that it does work. And that's what I'm doing on this one. As far as the weave with the dowels, I'll have that in a future video because it certainly didn't work on this one. Okay, so I'm going to glue this rope all along the inside edge of this, and then I'll just keep that same rope going and continue on and glue on the outside edge. And that will help to reinforce where my rope handles are so that they won't be popping off. And again, hot glue really loves rope. It's nice. It'll hold its position very nicely, and especially if you use a good solid hot glue. Okay, so I'm going to pinch those in place. I could clip them, but they are gluing pretty quickly. And this is the Gorilla Glue that I'm using, and that's definitely something, especially on this upper part where I need it to be solid. It is worth the extra little bit that it costs. Then I'm going to go ahead and trim those dowels off, and I'll be able to do a strand of rope right across the top. And the rope kind of sticks down into the dowels. I'll just push it in, and it'll help hold its position so that it's not like bending over. So that's what I'm going to do here. Now, as far as my oopsie of my yarn that didn't work on this particular one, I went ahead and pulled that yarn off, and I'll use it on a different project because I'm not going to waste it. But yeah, like I said, it didn't work on this one. Not everything always works every single time. Okay, now when you run out of rope, you can just glue the pieces together and continue on with your strands and keep on going. And after it's all glued down, you won't be able to tell where one rope started and the other rope ended, so to speak. Now, if you don't mind, tell me where you're coming in from. I love to see where the viewers are, and don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me to get seen on YouTube, and I sure appreciate it. Once you've glued the rope in 3 layers all the way around, that's it. Isn't that fast and easy and awesome? Used from recycled boxes and a little bit of twine, a little bit of fabric, and a bath mat. There you go. Dollar Tree supplies. I love getting all that I can from the Dollar Tree because why not save a little bit? I was traveling over the weekend to a different state, and I always love to go see what they have in their Dollar Trees because I have found that different stores have different things. But there are some basic things that most stores have, and that's what these things are made of. Things that most of the stores stock all the time. Okay, now let me show you another jute creation. I started this one making some circles out of my cardboard box. This was the lid from my pizza box, and I'm going to need 4 circles cut out, and I just grabbed a cup so really any size can work. You just decide what size you want and make a circle. And again, we're going to need 4 of these for my next project. Now, I took some yarn and just crocheted it into a long strand. And the reason why I crocheted it was just to get two pieces together so it looked more like a rope. And I'm going to glue that down in the center here. Any color, any yarn will work. I picked this up from the Dollar Tree and I separated it in half, or you could just get 2 strands of yarn. And basically I'm going to just crochet one long strand just so that it looks like rope. You can use any color. This just happens to be the color that I picked up. You just start off with a little slip knot like so, and then just crochet the entire ream of yarn. I've done this with great big puffy yarn or little skinny yarn. If it's real skinny, this one's kind of fatter. If it's real skinny, I might add 2 or 3 strands at a time so that it gets to the width of a rope. And then this can be used in place of a rope. Now, the reason why I like to use yarn, number 1, there's a lot of different colors. Number 2, it's easier when you're going to be weaving. And number 3, it just gives it a different look. So that's all you have to do, just basic crocheting. This yarn is just 2 strands, and then I'm going to glue them down to my round cardboard and then just start looping it around and around and around. So easy. This yarn is the one that I was going to use on my weave on my box that didn't work, and I pulled it off and it has some glue on it. So whenever I get excessive glue, I go ahead and trim that off because that was my oopsie. But of course, I'm not going to waste it. And so you just glue in a circular motion, and once it's completely glued down to the cardboard, it looks really cool. I love the look of that. It looks like you did something very fancy when really it's just the most simple, easy thing to do. So we're going to do 4 of these, and these are going to become our handles. And I can't believe I love this technique so much, and it's so easy. You won't believe how fun this looks when it gets done. Okay, after making 4 spirals, I'm going to go ahead and cut down my pizza box. Again, I don't need as big of a thing. I love making these little trays, and they work great for so many different things. I actually put my napkins and paper towels in them, but now I'm just thinking of so many different things. I just feel like everybody needs a tray. Now, I'm going to use a white towel that I picked up from a auction. I got a bunch of white towels from an auction, but you could grab a towel from the Dollar Tree, even a tea towel. If you wanted it to have some sort of a pattern or saying or whatever, anything would work. But I love, again, the towel, kind of the fuzzy fabric. Or you can, once again, use the jute fabric that is in the crafters area. So I'm just going to glue this down on all sides, up, down, around, inside, outside, upside down, all over, and particularly working on trimming the corners. As you can see on this particular one, I'm going to actually line the inside with some yarn instead of the outside. Not with yarn, with twine. Now I'm going to take my round discs that I made, add a generous amount of glue on both sides, and then glue these 2 circles on either side of the outer edge of my box. And then I will glue the last little strand up and around, and then I've created 2 darling handles. Now I left the train, and a little bit of yarn on the outer edge so that I could do the final loops so that it could be glued directly to the outer edge of this box. And the main reason why I left this long trail was once those 2 pieces are glued together, I want to have a rope that goes up over the top of it so that it seams together perfectly, so there's no gaps in between. And again, this is where you want to use some good strong Gorilla Glue and really hold those together until they've really meshed, and then voila, look at that. You have a nice final trim. This turned out to be one of my favorites of all time. I love having the circle handles. What do you think? I have now made 8 different jute baskets. I love it so much. This is my 3rd video, so if you're wondering how I created each one of these, make sure that you click on the link I'll put at the end of this video that will show you the other tutorials if you want to see how I made the other items. I'm simply obsessed with the jute look. I have to say, my brain is already working towards what else I can make out of these fine, simple pieces of material.